Stage 1 to following any sport is having a team to root for, and while you could do what half of the Counter-Strike player base does and support whoever you need to win for that 30-leg parlay to come in, it's probably better to have a team you can cheer for even when rent isn't on the line. So to get you started, here's a quick rundown of some of the most popular teams in Counter-Strike right now. The Mongols, one of the few teams made up entirely of players from the same country. Now, can you guess which country that is? If you didn't, you might need to book yourself an IQ test because, well, it's literally in the name. That's right, they're from Mongolia. Gold star if you got it. They're the ultimate underdog story, grinding up from a region barely on the map to becoming ranked #1 in the world. Team Vitality, one of the most successful orgs in modern Counter-Strike. They've been near the top since their entrance in 2018, with trophies, titles, and one of the GOATs himself. But there's a catch. They're French. Well, technically French owned, with a couple of French players left, but you get the idea. So the question is, does the good outweigh the bad? For years, Team Spirit floated around the lower tiers of Counter-Strike. Never bad, but never quite elite either. Then one day, some Russian scientists must have cooked up a genetic experiment deep in Siberia, because out came Donk. Now Spirit's a top tier powerhouse with a simple strategy. Donk, go kill. It works beautifully, until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, everything falls apart. Maus are one of the most historic orgs in Counter-Strike. They've been around since forever. Always solid, rarely outside the top 10, but this current iteration is incredibly boring. They have no stars, no drama, just 5 guys doing their job. If CS teams had a favourite sex position, Maus would absolutely be missionary. Consistent, efficient, and zero flair. Furia is the best team in the Americas right now. They're primarily Brazilian, although they have brought in some Europeans recently, led by one of the all-time greats who has an evil side. If you're Brazilian, these are probably who you support, and you might support them a bit too much. Please don't send me death threats, Brazilian fans. G2, they've spent years building super teams full of elite players, and somehow still can't win a major. They're basically the kings of so close, yet so far. Fun fact, if you visit their Berlin HQ and show this picture, you'll cause instant panic attacks. Still, they've had some of the biggest names in Counter-Strike, though recently their best players were poached by an oil-funded darkness spreading through the scene. If you hate women's rights and support slavery and human rights violations, then Team Falcons are for you. And hopefully that puts some of you off of supporting them, although I'm fairly convinced that to a lot of the CS community, these would be benefits. They're definitely, totally, absolutely not owned by the Saudi government. Nope, not at all. They've got enough money to build any roster they want. On paper, they should already be the best team in the world, but despite this, they've disappointed over and over with lackluster performances. Still, just one more star player, and I'm sure this time they'll win a major tournament. Aurora, the pride of Turkey and one of the few fully national lineups left. Can't give you a deep breakdown here, but what I can say is that I really like kebabs. So if you do too, maybe Aurora's your team. Navi, the legacy org, previously home to the GOAT Simple, and the only org to attend every single major. That's insane longevity. Their current lineup though, it's weird. It's like someone mashed together 5 players from 5 different teams and said, yeah, that'll do. But yet somehow it works. Sometimes. Still, they've got history, legacy, and one of the biggest fan bases in Counter-Strike. Once upon a time, Astralis were gods, the most dominant team ever. 3 majors in a row, pure discipline, 0 mistakes. But notice how I said were. Since then, they've fallen off a cliff, missing 5 straight majors with help from everyone's favourite London culture enjoyer, Stabby. They're still huge in Denmark, even recognised by the Danish government and publicly traded. Totally not heading toward bankruptcy. Let's just say they've truly earned the nickname Astralis. Team Liquid, the pride of North America, and the undisputed kings of Heartbreak. One of the biggest orgs in esports, but somehow their main skill is finding new ways to choke, again, and again, and again. If you're from North America, they're your only real tier 1 option, even though 3/5 of the roster are actually from Europe. So if you pick Liquid, prepare for pain, heartbreak and disappointment, but at least it's consistent. Back in the day, Virtus Pro were known as Virtus Plow, because the old Polish roster would bulldoze everyone. Now, more like Virtus Unicycle, one bump and they crash. Their current iteration hasn't been the same since Stoner Jesus left. We miss you, Jane. FaZe Clan, they went from trick-shotting kids in Call of Duty to scamming kids in Counter-Strike. Yep, they literally used money from an illegal skin casino to build an esports empire. You'd think that that kind of backstory would make them villains, right? Nope, they're massive, one of the most popular teams in the entire scene, and honestly, for good reason. They've got huge personalities, insane talent, and never win easily or lose quietly. Every game is a full-blown emotional rollercoaster. Definitely one to support if having mini heart attacks is one of your top hobbies. Ninjas in Pyjamas or NIP went from being one of the most iconic orgs in Counter-Strike history to basically the place where players' careers go to die. It gets so bad that the community literally coined the phrase, "your time on NIP doesn't count." And honestly, fair. They've started to crawl their way back recently, but they're still miles away from the glory days. It's like watching your favourite washed up band try a reunion tour. You're happy to see them, but you know their best days are behind them. Similarly to NIP, Fnatic are another fallen giant. They are slowly climbing their way back up the rankings, but their roster looks like it was made with a random number generator. But they do have a British player, so why not support them? Finally, M8T, which don't really belong on this list, but I had to include a team that was primarily North American for my American brethren. Yes, they've got a few Europeans sprinkled in, but at least here the majority are North American, which is more than we can say for Liquid these days. They're not elite tier, but that's kind of the fun of it. With Liquid, you expect greatness and get heartbreak. With M8T, you expect nothing and occasionally get pleasantly surprised, which honestly is probably the healthiest way to follow North American Counter-Strike. Now, I know that was a lot of information very quickly. So if you haven't decided yet, a pro tip I have is to create a handy dandy flowchart to help decide who to support. But before I show you how to do that, a quick message from my sponsor, skinvault.gg. Skinvault lets you buy, sell and trade skins instantly. With over 1 million available, you'll be sure to find exactly what you want. Getting ready is simple, just log in through Steam, enter your trade link, and you're ready to upgrade your inventory. Pick the skins you want and what you want to offer, and in just a few clicks, your trade is complete. Best way to support me while getting something for yourself is to head over to Skinvault and use code BONATHON for a $10 bonus on your first trade and a 35% deposit bonus. The age-old human nature is to just root for a team you believe to be closest to you, meaning picking someone geographically close to you. So an example of a flowchart for someone from the UK would be, are there any British teams? No one can pick yes since UKCS is well and truly dead, so if no, are there any British players? Luckily for us, there are a couple of British players around the top level of Counter-Strike. Next, do you hate the French? See, this one's a trick question. No British person would ever answer no to this. Can you swallow your pride and admit that the team you're going to support is carried by a Frenchman? If you answered yes, then you support Vitality, and if you answered no, then you support Fnatic. Now, that's quite a complicated flowchart, but they can be much simpler. For example, if you're an American fan, it's as simple as, do you enjoy pain and suffering? If you answered yes, then support any of the North American teams, and if you answered no, then just pick a European team at random. No matter what, they can't give you as much disappointment. But what if there's no players or team from my country, I hear you say? Well then, you just pick the one with the funny name and live to regret it for eternity. So now, hopefully you've listened to my rundown, created yourself a flowchart, and you have the team you want to support. But how are you actually going to know how to follow and support them? Luckily, in Counter-Strike, it's incredibly simple. As long as you understand how professional esports works, I have a video explaining it, you should totally watch that after this. Following your favourite team is as simple as knowing 4 out of the 26 letters in the alphabet. HLTV. For those who are uninitiated, HLTV is basically the holy book of Counter-Strike esports. It's where every match, every player stat, every ranking, and every deranged comment section lives. Think of it as the ESPN, Twitter, and Reddit of Counter-Strike, all rolled into one beautiful toxic package. Every pro, analyst, and fan uses it regularly. If something happens in Counter-Strike, it's on HLTV first. Even if that something isn't actually true, you can guarantee it's there. Using the basic features of HLTV is pretty straightforward. Search for your team and you'll find all the tournaments and matches they're playing, who they're up against, and every stream showing it. So whether you like to watch your Counter-Strike with the professional broadcast, or you prefer the one where Screamy Skin Man is yelling over it, HLTV is the hub you'll use to find it. Super simple, right? Well, that's until you try to go more in depth and start researching player stats. Then you'll get hit with enough information to make you question your own intelligence. All you really need to know is that HLTV has a player rating system and they're the presenters of the Valve team ranking. Their rating system, rating 3.0, is as simple as 1.0 rating equals player is average, less than 1 equals player is bad, and greater than 1 equals player is good. And Valve's team ranking can be simplified to, if team wins lots, go up, and if team loses lots, go down. And that information should be enough to win you 90% of your Twitter arguments. Now if you're truly brave, HLTV also has a forum, the final boss of the Counter-Strike fandom. It's a place where geopolitical debates, match threads, and completely unhinged nonsense all exist in perfect harmony. You can go from a reasonably civil discussion about a player to a full-blown psychopathic rant about how Hitler did nothing wrong, all in the span of about 6 seconds. It's a bit like stepping into a sociology experiment gone wrong, but hey, it's part of the culture. Just be aware though that forming your opinions about the game or anything else based on HLTV users probably isn't the best way to understand, well, literally anything. The only real requirement to earn your HLTV commenter badge is having hands to type on a keyboard, and most users seem to follow one golden rule: if I shout loud enough, then my opinion must be fact. So you've got your team, you know when they're playing, and you're finally ready to watch some games. But there's one problem left. You need to know how to fit in. To help you out, let's go through some common Counter-Strike fan terminology that you'll definitely hear. But before we continue, I'm currently 7.5% of the way to a silver play button, so if you're enjoying the video, please consider subscribing to help me bring down that ETA. Anyway, on with the video. Racism. Although I'm sure all Counter-Strike players are incredibly aware and probably practice racism themselves, here it means something slightly different. A racist team is one that's made up of all or mostly players from the same nationality. If you support a team like this, then you yourself are a racist and proudly support racism. Hate watching is pretty self-explanatory. If you're hate watching, it means that you don't support the team you're watching, but instead you're there just praying for them to lose. This has become infinitely more common ever since the inception of the Falcons brand. Fraud watch. If someone's on fraud watch, it means a player or coach, Sonic, who everyone thinks is great might not actually be that good, so they're under increased scrutiny while it's figured out if they've been frauds the whole time. Jame time, named after our Lord and Saviour, Jame. It refers to the sacred act of saving your gun instead of going for the round win. That's just a few of the most common key terms you'll need to pass as a fan. It'd also be useful to know some copy pastas, but I'm not going to get into that now because I actually have 2 whole videos explaining them. So the final thing you need to solidify yourself as a fan is to understand how the average Counter-Strike fan thinks. So I'll run you through a few scenarios and show how you should react. If your team loses, it's absolutely vital that you call for the entire roster to disband. There's no way they just had an off day, clearly the whole team must go. Then, if your team was to win the next match, you must immediately say, "We're so back." Act like you had full confidence the entire time, and make sure to delete anything that could be linked back to you saying the opposite. If a particular player has a bad game, make sure you call for them to be dropped. As we all know, every Counter-Strike player performs perfectly every single time, so one bad map is more than enough reason to bench them forever. And of course, no fan experience is complete without saying things like, "Why don't they just pick up X player?" It would solve everything. Make sure you say this confidently without knowing anything about contracts, roles, or how team chemistry would work. And that should be everything you need to know to be a Counter-Strike fan. Honestly, if anything, you'll know too much. But to make sure you're ready, I'm going to finish this video with a quick test. You are a Vitality fan. You've just lost the grand final 3-2. Heartbreak. Your hands are shaking, HLTV is open, and it's time for you to share your expert analysis. What do you post? If your comment goes anything like this, then congratulations. A+, you did it. You're officially ready to be a Counter-Strike fan. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, whatever else I'm meant to say. Oh yeah, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.